Good evening, Larson Heights, and welcome to Bedtime Stories with Mrs. Schatzko. Tonight, we are going to read one of my favorite books because I think it's really funny. It is called Walter the Farting Dog, and it's illustrated by Audrey Coleman and written by William Kotzwinkle and Glenn Murray. And this is the cover. How many of you have dogs? Do they ever fart? My dog, he sometimes clears a room. So this is pretty funny to me. And this book is written for anyone who's ever been misjudged or misunderstood. Walter the Farting Dog. Betty and Billy brought Walter home from the dog pound. Nobody wanted him, said Billy. But we love him, said Betty. Well, he smells awful, said their mother. I think you better give him a bath. I really love the illustrations in this book because they seem kind of like a cartoon, but kind of real at the same time, which I think is super cool. Mother walked in and said, "Ugh, he still smells awful." And that's when they got the first clue, the telltale bubbles in the water. He's probably just a little nervous, said Mother hopefully. His stomach must be upset. But Walter's stomach wasn't upset. Walter's stomach was just fine. He felt perfectly normal. He just farted a lot. Okay, to be fair, Losha does not fart that much. He did it when he bathed. He did it when he played with Betty and Billy. He did it when he walked around the house. He did it in the dining room. He did it in the kitchen. And he did it in his sleep. That dog farts morning, noon, and night, said Father. He can't help it, Daddy, said Betty and Billy. They didn't mind Walter's farts. So what if he farts, Billy said to Betty when they were alone in their room with Walter. Betty agreed. Walter agreed too. He sat there looking innocently around, farting. Take him to the vet, said Father. Farting, said the vet, or rectal flatulence, as we say in the medical profession, and prescribed a change in diet. They gave Walter every kind of dog food. He farted. They tried him on cat food. They gave him hot dogs, hamburgers, and lettuce and tomato sandwiches. They gave him fried chicken. They gave him rabbit food. They made him a vegetarian. No matter what that dog eats, he turns into farts. He turns it into farts, roared Father. Poor Walter. Walter got the blame for everybody else's farts too. If Uncle Irv let one slip, he just went and stood near Walter. Then all he had to do was say, "Walter!" And everyone would look at poor Walter. Actually, my dad used to do that to us. He'd stand next to us and fart and then blame it on us. It was terrible. He has to go back to the pound, said Father. No, Daddy, please, begged Betty and Billy. Don't send Walter away. He goes tomorrow, said Father. They pleaded. Walter farted. It was all over. That night, Betty and Billy cried in their beds, and Walter looked at them unhappily. Oh, Walter, said Betty, you've got to stop farting, because Father's gonna send you back to the pound tomorrow. Look at poor Walter. Walter knew how serious the situation was. He'd never see Betty and Billy again. He resolved to hold in his farts forever. When Betty and Billy fell asleep, he walked down to the kitchen to see if there was anything around to eat. He managed to open the cupboard with his nose and found the 25 bag of low-fart dog biscuits the vet had prescribed for him, which had made him fart even more. Even though he knew they made him fart more, he just couldn't resist. He ate the entire bag. Very tasty, said Walter to himself. And then he went and lay down on the sofa. A gigantic gas bubble began to build inside him. This is gonna be trouble, he said to himself nervously. He was afraid of what might happen if he let it go. He thought maybe the house would explode, so he kept it in. It wasn't easy. In fact, it was torture. But he had resolved never to fart again. His future depended on it. As he lay there with his tail wrapped tightly between his legs, he heard a noise at the window. Poor Walter. And I'm sure that kitty laying on top of his belly is not helping. He watched it slowly open. A pair of burglars came through. They dropped silently into the kitchen. Watch out for the dog, said one of the burglars. He won't bite, said the other. He's a wimp. Walter might have bitten them, except he was so filled with gas he couldn't move. They tied a rag around his snout so he couldn't bark. Okay, whispered the first burglar. Let's clear the place out. They took everything they could get their hands on. Walter wanted to stop them, but he was having unbearable gas pains. He rolled on his back and waved his paws in the air. He gnashed his teeth. We've got it all, said the second burglar. Let's go. Look at those horrible burglars. That is when Walter let it fly. It was the worst fart of his entire life. It made a tremendous noise and shot him across the room. A hideous cloud filled the air. The burglars clutched their throats, unable to breathe. With tears in their eyes, they raced for the window. They tried to grab their bag with all the valuables in it, but their arms were too weak. Let's get out of here, he said. Look at Walter flying across the room and the noxious gas cloud hitting the burglars and the poor kitty. Oh, poor kitty. Poor kitty. They jumped out of the window and ran up the block, choking and gasping for air. Still blinded by Walter's attack, they stepped into the headlights of an approaching police car. Hold it right there, said the policeman. Well, that was lucky that the policeman just happened to be right there to get him. See that gas cloud following them up the road? Walter did a good one on that one. That's what I think. When Father and Mother came down in the morning, they found the open window and they saw the bag with their valuables in it, and Walter was sitting beside it. He still had the rag tied around his snout. You'd have to say he did look heroic. He saved the silverware, cried Mother. He saved the VCR, cried Father. Good dog, Walter. You're our dog even if you do fart all of the time. And so the family learned to live with Walter, the hero dog, and that is the end of our tale. Tomorrow, when you come to school, I want you to come and tell me what the lesson is that you learned from Walter, the farting dog. Oh, look at this. Walter's Wonder Park, 100% natural gas powered. They put his farts to work. I love it. Have a wonderful evening, Larson Heights. I have missed you all weekend. I cannot wait to see you all tomorrow morning. Soar high with the Eagles.